It's good.
Yep. We can hear you. We can hear you.
Thank you, guys.
Welcome, everyone. If you're just joining, we're going to get started in just a second. We're going to let everyone log on. All right, welcome everyone to the pre-proposal conference for Geographic Information Systems, GIS, and Digital Land Surveying Products and Services. This RFO is 596. Before we get started, we're going to go over a few housekeeping rules and notes. All the attendees will be muted. So if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A. Can everybody please raise their hand to confirm that they can hear me? Perfect. Thank you so much. And we would like to remind everyone that the handout and recording will be available in the addendums. Next is our speakers for today. So we have Pete, we have James, we have Marie, we have Teresa, and we have Vanya. I will now turn it over to Pete.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Pete Casellas. I'm the procurement lead for this RFO. James Burkhardt is also a procurement lead and will be assisting as far as all parts of the RFO, including negotiations and award. Marie is the accessibility officer, and she'll be available to answer your questions during any of the accessibility section. Teresa is the hub program manager, and we have Vanya, who's a team lead for our section, and she'll be talking about the bid stamp requirements. But first, I'd like to start off with just the RFO overview. So the purpose of this RFO is to solicit responses from potential vendors for geographic information systems and digital land surveying products and services for the state of Texas, acting by and through the Department of Information and Resources, or DIR. DIR does intend to make multiple awards from this RFO, and this is a subsequent procurement to the RFO ending in 444, titled Geographic Information Systems, Hardware, Software, Services, and Information Technology-Based Surveying, Hardware, Software, and Related Services. You'll probably notice that we kind of shortened the title down a little bit, make it a little easier and concise. But this is, if you do wish to continue business with the DIR customers and have a contract awarded under the RFO ending in 444, you'll want to submit a response to this RFO as the earlier RFO is setting to expire. Those contracts, Texas generally does 5-year contracts, and all those contracts are starting to expire. So this will be sort of a rebid or refresh of those suite of contracts. Next slide, please. So the agenda for today, we'll talk about an overview of the RFO, and then we'll go over the contents, the scope, the evaluation criteria. We'll talk about the term of the contracts, its schedule, the HSP. We'll talk about some details on the pricing sheet that you'll be completing, and also Marie will talk about digital accessibility. Then we'll talk about some general information that you'll want to have, as well as the bid stamp vendor information system portal, the portal that you'll be submitting your offer through. And Vanya will give you the details on that. We'll want to stress some mandatory submission requirements. So these are things that if you're missing or somehow fail to submit, we may not be able to accept your offer at all. So it would not go under consideration. So you want to pay special attention to that section. Then we'll move on to a short break and then answer your questions. And then I'll have some closing remarks for you as well. And that will be it. Next slide, please. So yeah, everyone's favorite slide, historical sales. This is the sales for the complete cooperative contracts program and in the columns you'll have the fiscal years 22, 23, and the completed fiscal year of 2024. Our fiscal year goes to end of August, so we haven't completed 2025 just yet, but I do anticipate that there'll be a continuing increase in those numbers. On the left-hand side in the rows, you'll see the various channels that we have of DIR customers, assistance organizations, higher ed, such as universities and K through 12. We have local governments, whether cities or counties, out-of-state entities, which is something that we do through memorandums of agreements, and also our primary stakeholders, the state agencies. And so you'll see by looking at this this chart that there has been continued growth. In 2022, we had over $3 billion for sale. That is billion with a B. In 2023, we had almost $3.4 billion, and then in 2024, we had over $3.4 billion worth of sales through our cooperative contracts program. With the numbers at the lower end, those are the sales that have been made through the last GIS suite of contracts that we have through RFO 444. And it started off with $8.7 million of sales, grew to $11.8 million of sales in 2023, and then in the completed fiscal year 2024, we saw quite a substantial increase, over double to $27.8 million worth of sales. And again, we're seeing, I've seen the numbers so far, and we're seeing a pretty healthy increase. So more technology, further emerging technologies. You know, we are seeing a lot of the old tools and techniques moving into the modern world, and so we're seeing again this sort of these emerging technologies and the demand for them from the various organizations that you'll see in channels listed above. Next slide, please. So here is the list of the contents of the RFO package. The main document is going to be titled DIR-CPO-TMP 596, or the requisition number. And then we have three attachments that are basically sample documents. Attachment 1 being a sample of the contract. Attachment 2 is our standard terms and conditions that you'll be able to review and possibly take exceptions to if needed. And attachment 3 is a sample of our service agreement template. Then we have exhibits A through K. Exhibit A is the response certification form. We'll wait for that to come back on. Just waiting.
Sorry, give us just 1 second. We're having a little technical difficulties. Sorry about that.
All right, no problem. Thank you much.
All right, there we go. Sorry about that.
No problem. Thanks for handling that. So it looks like we're back to the exhibits. So the exhibit A is the response certification form. This was previously called the vendor information form. So if that throws you a little bit, it's basically the vendor information form, but we've kind of rebranded it. Exhibit B is the respondent history and experience. This is one of those evaluation forms. Exhibit C, like Exhibit C, which is the contract marketing customer support plan. Exhibit D is the HSP or sample HSP. Exhibit E is the pricing sheet. Exhibit F is the reference form. And next slide, please. Exhibit G is the respondent release of liability. Exhibit H is the Edgar certification form. And then we have at the tail end, we have the 3 accessibility forms, which is Exhibit I, the policy-driven adoption for accessibility, or PDAA, vendor self-assessment, and Exhibit J, the voluntary product accessibility template, or VPAT, and Exhibit K, the vendor accessibility development services information requests, or VADSIR. So, and all these documents that I just ran through, we'll talk more about them in detail in today's conference. But first of all, let's go next slide, please. I'd like to turn it over to James Burkhart, and he'll again start going into a little more details about the RFO contents.
Good afternoon, everyone. Next slide, please. All right, so we'll get into the exhibits. On this slide, we have exhibits A, A1, and B. Exhibit A is the respondent information, who will be disqualified if this is not completed and signed. So please make note of that. This form must be filled out in its entirety and signed by an officer or agent empowered to contractually bind the respondent. Complete canceled contract references if applicable. Exhibit A1 is the exceptions. Under Exhibit A, Item 13, respondent will indicate whether or not it has an exceptions. If yes, the respondent will fill out this form as instructed in RFO Section 3.7.3.5. Exhibit B is the respondent history and experience. Exhibit B is scored in the evaluation process. The respondent must provide a detailed response to each question detailing the respondent's history and experience in providing the products and services proposed. Caution, respondent's response may be disqualified if their exceptions are excessive.
And I also like to point out that please note that in Exhibit A, that is a will be disqualified, not may be disqualified. So DIR will not be able to accept your offer if it is not signed by an officer or agent empowered to contractually bind the respondent. So unfortunately, we do get one of those every so often. I hope it's not anyone who's responding to this RFO, but please pay special attention that we cannot accept your offer if we do not receive it signed by the time that it is due to DIR. Thank you.
Next slide, please. Exhibit C, D, and E. Exhibit C is Contract Marketing and Customer Support Plan. Exhibit C is also scored during evaluations. The respondent must provide a plan that describes the respondent's ability and strategy for promoting and supporting the contract, if awarded. Exhibit D is a historically underutilized business or HSP form to sample. Respondents must provide HSP form as instructed in Section 3.4.1, Hub Subcontracting Plan Item B of the RFO. Vendors must download the latest form using the link provided under Item B. Exhibit E is an itemized price sheet. Respondent must submit specific pricing for products and services requested. Respondent must respond as instructed in Exhibit E, itemized price sheet spreadsheet. Next slide, please. Exhibits F, G, and H. Exhibit F is the vendor references. Respondent must send the Exhibit F reference form to a minimum of 3 companies or government agencies. References must respond to DIR on the form provided by the due date in order to be considered for evaluation. Respondent may not submit the reference form to DIR. Exhibit G, the respondent release of liability for references. For each entity that an Exhibit F reference form is sent to, Respondent shall also submit with their response a signed RFO Exhibit G Respondent Release of Liability. Exhibit H is the EDGAR certification form. Respondents must provide the EDGAR certification form as requested in Section 3.5.1 Federal Requirements of the RFO. Next slide, please. Exhibits I, J, and K. Exhibit I, the PDAA. Respondent must complete the policy-driven adoption for accessibility, PDAA, for vendor self-assessment, regardless of products and services in this response. Exhibit J is a VPAT. Respondent must provide an Accessibility Conformance Report, ACR, or completed VPAT for all commercial off-the-shelf COTS products. Exhibit K is a VADSIR. This is for non-COTS or commercial off-the-shelf products. Respondent must provide a completed VADSIR for all proposed development services listed in Exhibit E, itemized price sheet.
All right, let's go to the next slide. So in this section, we'll talk about the RFO scope, basically the kind of things that we will be considering to put under award through the solicitation. Here in this RFO, section 2 of the RFO is where we start outlining what is in scope, as well as what is out of scope. So DIR intends to contract with successful respondents to provide geographic information systems and digital land surveying products and services. And we'll go into detail as far as how DIR sees those kinds of products and services. So respondents may submit an offer based on any one or combination of the technologies that is within the scope of solicitation. So basically, if you just provide, one specific hardware under this particular scope, that's fine. If you provide, several things but not everything, that is fine as well. I doubt everyone provides everything. There may be a few one-stop shops out there, but usually it's some combination or one of the technologies, and we'll be glad to accept, such a response as long as it's within, the general guidelines of what we're describing. Next slide, please. So section 2.3 of the scope outlines GIS hardware relating to reality capture and processing devices, including but not limited to 3D laser scanners, GIS data collectors, including GNSS-enabled units running GIS software, whether it's on water-based vehicles, drones, tablets, smart antennas, receivers, pole cameras, and mobile GIS devices. And if we go to next slide, please. So section 2.4 outlines GIS hardware relating to visualization, including but not limited to GIS specialized displays and monitors, including VR headsets, AR headsets, and also mobile mapping devices.
Okay, section 2.5 outlines GIS software relating to data processing, management, and analysis, including but not limited to GIS cloud applications, crowdsourced and citizen-driven GIS platforms, predictive analytics software for environmental change, urban planning, or disaster response, geospatial artificial intelligence for spatial analysis, machine learning, digital twins, change detection. Next slide, please. Section 2.6 outlines GIS software relating to mapping and visualization, including but not limited to GUIs, web GIS, and mobile-based applications to connect users to GIS information, GNSS mapping solutions, interactive data exploration and mapping, web mapping, and modeling.
Next slide, please. So on section 2.7 of the RFO, it outlines GIS, geospatial products relating to imagery and models, whether these be data lakes or spatial data repositories, address points, feature extraction and derivative data creation, hydrographic surveying, imagery as a service, photogrammetry, and thermal imagery. Next slide, please. Section 2.8 of the RFO outlines GIS geospatial products, geospatial intelligence, and data sets, including but not limited to visibility analysis, web mapping services, digital twins, that is hyper-realistic and interactive models of cities, infrastructure, environment, and other things, geospatial as a service, object detection, smart cities, spatial data analytics, and spatial data infrastructure.
Section 2.9 outlines GIS services relating to geospatial analysis and spatial data science, including but not limited to aerial imagery interpretation, change detection and monitoring, geostatistics, GIS database management, GIS managed cloud services, photogrammetry, real-time natural disaster monitoring, real-time visualization and analytics. Section 2.10 outlines GIS services relating to planning, development, and deployment, including but not limited to AI and machine learning application development, collaboration, community and stakeholder engagement, data needs and optimization assessment, development of web-based interfaces, GIS application development, GIS assessment, health check, GIS training, education, and knowledge-based transfer.
So in section 2.11 of the RFO, it outlines GIS services relating to data collection, conversion, and integration, including but not limited to building information modeling, or BIM, and computer-aided design, or CAD integration, customized developer framework for GIS integration, geocoding and reverse geocoding, GIS with IoT network integration, IT system and GIS integration, AI-assisted data conversion, and integration services. Section 2.12 outlines digital land surveying products relating to field use and office use, including but not limited to digital measuring equipment, surveying instruments and kits, surveying robots, GNS surveying equipment and systems, digital levels, laser rangefinders, laser scanners, total stations, and autonomous surveying systems.
Okay, section 2.13, product-related services. It's installation, warranty, maintenance, support, and training.
So on these things for related, and if we go back to the related services for a second, I'd just like to kind of add that the related services, you can think of those things as the services that are tied to a specific software or hardware product. Right. So when DIR says related services, it's these things that are kind of tied to the installation of a certain product, whether it's hardware or software, or the maintenance of that software. So those are what we describe as related services, because they're services that are, tied or related to a specific brand or product. And when we talk about services in general, those are typically just standalone services. So you have personnel at an hourly rate, and they do more of the development or things that you may not necessarily need a specific brand or product that is tied to. So
Next slide, please. Section 2.14 covers exclusions and things out of scope, which would be some of the following: deliverables-based information technology services, also known as DBITS, professional or consulting services as defined in Chapter 2254 of the Texas Government Code, products identified on the State of Texas prohibited software / applications / developers list, which is posted at the below hyperlink. Telecommunication services, including any telecommunication services offered in a contract awarded by DIR under a Texan procurement. Products, services that are not advertised in this RFO in the NIGP commodity codes table on the title page of this RFO.
And before we move to the next slide, I'd just kind of like to add to on this this section. So it will be the responsibility of the respondent to make sure that what they're offering is within the scope of the RFO. So just be sure, to pay close attention to not wander off too far outside the fence of what we're describing as GIS and digital land surveying products and services. I wouldn't want you to do all this work and then, find that the evaluators have given you poor scores because they've don't think that careful enough attention was paid to what the products and services are described as under this solicitation. Also, in worst case, you could be possibly disqualified as being out of scope too, and not be able to move forward in the process. So be careful. I think this is pretty well defined as far as what GIS is. We have some other solicitations where there's a lot of gray area, but fortunately, I think in this solicitation we have a pretty clear cut of what kinds of products and services are within the scope of this RFO. So next slide, please. So I'll go through just some of what the evaluation criteria looks like for this solicitation. The RFO section 4.2.1 describes the pass-fail criteria, right? And so these are things that you don't want to, be on the failing side, of course, and you'll want to pay special attention to make sure you got those boxes checked. Be sure you have the complete response package. If you're missing Exhibit C or B, you could be either disqualified or the evaluators will basically be forced to give you zeros because it doesn't have, they can't evaluate it and they can't give you a score because it doesn't exist in your package. So again, adding zeros to your final score, it does not usually turn out well when you're averaging. The other pass-fail criteria would be the financial review, or the accessibility review, the HSP review. Those are pass-fail reviews. So if you fail the financial review, or you fail the accessibility review, or you fail the HSP review, that would be a fail, and you would not be passing the administrative review, which means you would not be moving forward in the evaluation process. Next thing would be the failure to provide a DUNS number. That's really part of how the financial review is done. The next one is failure to provide a completed PDAA, which is the accessibility to document, which would cause a respondent to be disqualified. So only responses that receive a passing grade in all these things will be moving forward to the next phase, which is the evaluation phase, where the evaluation team will start scoring. So there is usually, a section of respondents who do not make it to that section because typically it's, they failed to, they were in a rush or whatever happened, and they didn't get their, Exhibit A signed, or they forgot to upload, a document, or they, or for whatever of the above reasons, had not passed that criteria and would not be moving to the evaluation phase. But if you do move to the evaluation phase, and I hope that all of those who are here today do, we'll outline sort of what the evaluation criteria is. Pricing is very important to the state of Texas. We're all operating on, all state agencies are operating on the most tightest budget when you're using taxpayer dollars, and that's obviously one of the greatest consideration is the pricing that you're offering, and that will be scored at 40% of your total score. And the next thing would be the respondent history and experience, which is in the Exhibit B form that you'll be completing. That will make up 30% of your score. And then the next thing is the respondent's contracting, marketing, and customer support plan, or Exhibit C. And that will also be making up 30% of your total score. Next slide, please.
All right. Next slide, please. So the term of the contract is discussed under section 2.19 of the RFO in the contract. The term of any contract awarded from this RFO shall be 2 years commencing on the last date of approval by DIR and the vendor. The contract will renew automatically in one optional 2-year renewal and then one optional 1-year renewal under the same terms and conditions, unless either party provides notice to the other party 60 days in advance of the renewal date, stating that the party wishes to discuss modification of terms or not to renew. There is also an option to extend. Successful respondent agrees that DIR may require continued performance under this contract at the rates specified in this contract following the expiration of the initial term or any renewal term. This option may be exercised more than once, but the total extension of performance hereunder shall not exceed 90 calendar days. Such an extension of services shall be subject to the requirements of the contract, with the sole and limited exception that the original date of the termination shall be extended pursuant to this provision. DIR may exercise this option upon 30 calendar days written notice to the successful respondent. So I just wanted to, iterate that the contract, it's a 2-year base period with options for renewals. And the renewals are automatic unless either party provides notice to the other party 60 days in advance.
Yeah, and so yeah, it's kind of the renewal automatically is it doesn't necessarily automatically really no one has a say in it. So the contract management department will be looking at are there sales, are there any sales on this contract? And they will be doing some various checks and so forth and ask various questions like, is it of still value to the state of Texas to renew this contract? So it does say automatic renewal, but not necessarily it renews automatically. There will be a review process that says, are there sales? Are there performance issues? Are they still registered with who they need to be registered with, or any problems? And then they'll decide to renew it. Probably one of the biggest things is that, although not on this, I don't anticipate on this one, but sometimes we have, contracts where there aren't enough sales, and if there's 0 sales or somewhere close to 0, the state may decide, yeah, we don't want to necessarily automatically renew this one. But yeah, so let's move on to the next section, please, or next slide. And so in this section, we'll talk about the schedule of the RFO. The RFO was posted on May 7th, earlier this month, or 20 days ago. Today, we're at May 27th, which is the optional pre-proposal webinar. Thank you all for being here. And the next important deadline is May 30th, which is Friday. And that at 5 p.m. Central Time, that will be your deadline for submitting questions, which you'll do through the Bidstamp Vendor Information System portal. And at 5 p.m., that opportunity will stop, and that's when we start reviewing the questions, and I start talking to our various departments, whether it's accessibility or legal department, and start formulating answers to your questions and submitting responses through an addendum, which will be posted on the ESBD. The most important deadline, of course, that's why it's highlighted in yellow, is June 17th, and that's going to be the deadline for DIR to receive your vendor references. Of course, not from you, but from your references. So, you're welcome to have them kind of CC you, or after whatever kind of whatever kind of confirmation arrangement you can work out. But we will need to receive those references directly from them and not from you all. But so please plan accordingly. And also, probably the most important part is it's this June 17th, 2 p.m. deadline is the deadline for submitting your responses to the RFO through the BidStamp portal. So at 2:01 p.m., the system locks down and will not accept your response. You will not be able to hit submit because a submit button will be grayed out. So please plan accordingly. There are, technical, things do happen. Internet services go out or computer issues do happen. So I wouldn't wait for the last, minute to submit your response. Get it in ahead of time, and make sure that you set your account up as early as possible, as things do happen, and you don't want to be struggling with technical issues when you spend weeks or months putting your offer together. And so the day after the responses are received, and that's when I turn them over to my financial department, the accessibility department, our HS, our hub department, and they start doing their review of the responses. After the admin review, we turn it over to the evaluation team, and they start scoring the responses. And then we move into negotiations and the awarding of the contracts for those who have made it that far. And that's generally the anticipated schedule of events. Things do change, of course, as necessary, but so far that is what we're looking at. Next slide, please. And let me turn it over to Teresa Williamson, who is the Hub Director, and she'll be talking about the details of your Hub subcontracting plan requirements.
Thank you, Pete. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Teresa Williamson. I am the Director of the Hub program here at DIR. And let's talk about the importance of submitting a correctly completed and signed Hub subcontracting plan. Next slide. There is a sample form that's included in your packet. However, you will be required to visit this link to download the most currently approved copy of the Hub subcontracting plan from the Comptroller's website. Please remember not to modify the form or to export it to a Word doc. This copy is an editable form, and it's owned and managed by the Comptroller's office. Next slide. Okay. All respondents, Hub and non-Hub, are required to submit a completed and signed HSP. Failure to submit a completed and signed HSP will cause your response to be rejected. This is a pass or fail item, and there are 3 ways to complete your Hub subcontracting plan. The first is to meet or exceed the Hub goal and complete method A. The second is to not meet the Hub goal and complete method B. And the third is to self-perform. Next slide. The Hub goal for that is set for this solicitation is 26%. If you will, if your proposed subcontracting meets or exceeds that 26% Hub goal, you'll complete method A. Be sure to identify all Hub and non-Hub vendors that you'll be subcontracting with, include the anticipated dollar amounts and expected percentages. So when completing method A, you'll complete sections 1, 2, 4, and method A, attachment A. Next slide. Okay. If you're going to subcontract below the Hub goal, you'll complete method B. Be sure to solicit a minimum of 3 Hub certified companies and 2 minority trade organizations. With your method B, good faith effort, you must allow 7 working days for the vendors and trade organizations to respond back to you prior to the due date of this RFO. Include your outreach to these entities with your HSP or your hub subcontracting plan submission. So when completing method B, you'll complete sections 1, 2, and 4 and the method B attachment B. Don't forget to include the approximate dollar amounts and percentages. Also, please allow yourself plenty of time to complete your method B good faith effort. Please remember that the day that you send out your correspondence is considered day 0. I've seen many companies not complete this one correctly. So take your time with it. Also know that the hub department will provide you a courtesy review of your hub subcontracting plan, again, prior to the due date of the RFO. As time permits, we can assist you with that. Next slide. If you will be self-performing, you will complete sections 1, 2, 3, and 4. In your self-performing justification, you'll identify how your company will fulfill a contract with its own current staff, equipment, and resources. Please do not say that you'll subcontract in the future or if you need to. You'll just simply tell us how you will self-perform a contract should you be awarded. Next slide. All right, I bet you didn't know that DIR has a YouTube channel. If you didn't, here are some links to it. We do provide these 3 links. They are resources available to you to walk you through the process of completing a hub subcontracting plan using each of the methods that we just talked about. Great resources for you to bookmark. Next slide. Also, as we continue talking about some support tools, here is a list of some of the most common errors that we see on the HSP. But at the end of the day, the biggest error is you not using your resources to assist you in completing and passing the HSP. Next slide. Okay, my contact information is listed here. Like I said before, we will provide you with a complimentary or courtesy review of your hub subcontracting plan prior to the due date of this RFO as time permits. You must contact us no later than 10 days prior to the due date of this RFO. So please, again, take advantage of that complimentary review and remember that when corresponding with the hub office to make sure that you're including the procurement lead on all correspondence.
Thank you, Teresa. So I'll turn it over to James to go into the details of the RFO's Exhibit E or pricing sheet.
Thank you, Pete. So products and service pricing. Respondents must submit pricing on DIR's automated pricing form in the BidStamp VIS. Failure to respond as instructed may result in respondent's offer being disqualified from further evaluation. Respondents must submit the discounts of the offerings on automated pricing form in BidStamp VIS by selecting the Create Pricing Form button. Automated pricing form. For this RFO, vendors will enter one line as to allow the system to accept your response submission. The BidStamp fields include the brand, the product category, and the discount off MSRP or list price. Next slide, please. Exhibit E, product and servicing pricing. Continued. Respondent must also complete the pricing sheet, which is Exhibit E, of the RFO response documents. Exhibit E contains 4 tabs. The first tab is instructions, second tab is products, third tab is services, and fourth tab is the volume discount. Enter prices for each item your company would like to offer to DIR customers within the applicable tabs. For certain products, COTS and those with user interfaces, a VPAT, ACR documents must also be included with the respondent's proposal. The elements required for pricing sheet are the brand, product category, product description, part number, MSRP list price, discount being offered, and the DIR customer price.
And before we move to the next slide on this one, so just to just kind of give you an overview. So there's really two pricing, mechanisms we're using here. There's the automated pricing form in Bitstamp, and that's going to be a high level. This is the brand, this is the category, this is the discount that's associated with the brand. And so, for example, you may have brand A. You may have a couple different discounts for brand A. You have a discount. You have a 5% discount for software, but you have a 10% discount for hardware. And so you'll have one row that says brand A hardware is at 10%. Brand A software is at 5%. Is what you'll be entering. That's the high level. Be sure you enter that information, because that's what you're, back in the earlier slides, we talk about the evaluation criteria and pricing. That's how we're evaluating your pricing, and we're kind of like comparing you to what the other respondents are offering. And so if you're not evaluating, then we can't. If it's not, if it hasn't been evaluated, we can't award it, right? So because that's why we're doing all this, to evaluate, to ensure the best value for the state of Texas. And that's the value that us procurement leads are bringing to the process, is we're providing that evaluation part. But if we can't evaluate it, then we can't put it on contract. So it's very important you don't overlook the Bitstamp portion, or the automated pricing form that we're talking about. Now, when it comes to the detailed pricing forms, as far as the detail in this Exhibit E, now that's something that we're going to take and we're going to look at, and we're going to during the negotiation process, we're going to see whether these things. That's where we're really learning the details, because it has the product description, right, and it has specific pricing that we may benchmark against other consortia. So this is where the pricing sheet is providing all the details. So you provided the brand and the discount level, and now we're kind of have a chance to look at later in the process, what the description is. Is it in scope? Is it out of scope? The person who is working the award will be able to see all of the specific details that they need, including the accessibility documentation that is able to be entered into the spreadsheet as well. So this is all the detail part that is used later in the process. So there's two things, and they both need to be provided to DIR as part of your response. Next slide, please. So we talked about the various exhibits, and as far as the attachments are concerned, we have 3 attachments, and basically they're sample documents. They're a sample of the contract for products and services. We have a copy of our Appendix A, or what would be Appendix A of the contract, and its standard terms and conditions, and also the service agreement template. Next slide, please. So with the standard contract template, you'll see that it has various terms and conditions in there. It lists things like order of precedence. This is a thing that both parties will be signing at the end of the day. First, we send it out to the vendor or the respondent for their signature, and then receive it back, and then route it for all contract reviews, final department reviews and approvals. And then once DIR signs it, specifically our chief procurement officer signs it, that's the start date of your contract. And it can go as long as 5 years plus 90 days. The standard terms and conditions, again, that lays out all the basic standard terms and conditions that are required by statute. There's a lot of them. Every couple of years, when the Texas legislature meets, we generally add a few things to it, and so over time, there are a number of requirements that that must be met if you want to do business with the state of Texas. These are things that you must adhere to, and of course, there's things in there that relate to make sure that the program runs successfully. And so there are certain things that we need you to do, whether it's put contract information on your website, or provide certain reporting requirements perform, reporting requirements, those kind of things. So there's some program side, there's some statute side, there's a lot of on the statute side, but that's all in the standard terms and conditions. You'll have an opportunity to take exceptions to those terms and conditions if for some reason your particular business has some kind of is in need of an exception to it. Our legal department will consider that if there's any way that we can accommodate those conditions and modify the contract accordingly. Do note that excessive exceptions could lead to disqualification. So also, as you know, getting legal departments in the process, that's going to add time to, for the award processing. If you want to see things go quicker and you can accept the terms and conditions as they are, that certainly will, you'll probably see a more expedited award than having taken, exceptions to things that we can't change or because they're tied into the state's laws. But as far as the service agreement template, so the service agreement template, and it's basically a Word document that can be modified by you and the DIR customer. That's the thing that when you need to work out specific details of whatever project you're engaged in with the DIR customer, beyond the standard terms and conditions. So you can have additional terms and conditions on top of what the standard ones are, because some agencies may have additional security needs or other things that are, or there's perhaps timing issues or other things that are negotiable between the two parties, and those things can be outlined in our service agreement template, which is attachment 3. Next slide, please. So in this section, I'll turn it over to Marie Cohen, who is the statewide digital accessibility officer.
Thank you, Pete. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to go through the digital accessibility requirements and forms. Before I do so, I'd just like to mention that the last time this solicitation hit the market, we did have a statewide GIS exemption. That will not be the case going forward. So I'm going to try to go through as carefully as I can because a lot of this might be new to y'all. Next slide, please. So digital accessibility is the practice of designing and building technology that removes barriers for people with disabilities that prevent interaction with or access to websites, digital tools, and technologies. These digital tools and technologies include products, services, communications, and related supporting documentation or deliverable documents. We do have a statute on our books that states what those accessibility requirements are for the state of Texas. And then we also have accompanying rules with TAC 206, which relates to websites, and TAC 213, which relates to all other technology and policy. We also follow industry standard, which is the World Wide Web Consortium, or WCAG 2.1 AA. And if you're not familiar, the Department of Justice published a new rule that accompanies Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act last April. The new rule under Title II requires that anything pretty much that's accessed through a web browser page has to be accessible at WCAG 2.1 AA. So that could be any kind of software application that you log into through a web page, the web page in general, the website, web content, the documents that are in that website, and accompanying mobile applications as well. So I just wanted to alert you of that because it is relatively new. And it is in effect now. So it's not something that's going into effect in the future. It went into effect almost immediately. Next slide, please. So there's 3 documents I'm going to review. One of them is the policy-driven adoption for accessibility, and this is a vendor self-assessment. So this is a required document with your response. This document is not tied to your product or service offering. It's not tied to anything else in your response. What this document is you telling us how your organization has adopted accessibility practices in your business processes. So we just want to learn where you're at with your accessibility maturity, and I'll go into more detail on that. Then the vendor accessibility development services information request, which is for non-product offerings. And I did notice in the scope, there is some application development in there. So this would pertain to that. Accessibility conformance report, which is a completed VPAT or voluntary product accessibility template. Once you have your product tested, it creates that ACR, and we would like to see that for every single product in your response. Okay, next slide, please. So I'll start with the policy-driven adoption for accessibility. This is going to be an Excel document in your packet. Please complete the actual Excel document that was provided for you. Please only put numerical scores in of 0, 1, 2, or 3. Ensure that you get a total at the bottom. Please do not use any other types of marks like X's or check marks or anything like that. We want to see that score that's at the bottom. There's a scale on there that shows where your company is at with regard to accessibility maturity. And this document has questions on it that will actually help you as an organization create a roadmap to accessibility. So let's say you're relatively new to this topic and you would like to start implementing some practices within your organization. You might have a lower score, which is not a problem. But it does have questions on there to help you think through what that process would look like or what a roadmap could look like for your organization to improve your accessibility maturity. We also provide a maturity model, so you can review that and see the different stages and what's expected for each of those stages in the journey to a more mature accessibility program. So again, this is a required document. If we receive an incomplete or a PDAA with a 0, or if your PDAA is missing, it will receive a failing score automatically for your accessibility portion of your response, and it could end up stalling out the rest of your evaluation. So please make sure you submit those. Next slide, please. This is the PDAA maturity matrix I described. There are some links on this that you'll be able to do some more investigating. The PDAA is a NASCIO-sponsored document, so it is used across the U.S. It's not just specific to Texas. The 3 areas of maturity are the launch stage, the integrated stage, and the optimized stage. And again, the questions on that PDAA should help you. You can leverage those to create your own roadmap for accessibility maturity. Next slide, please. The Accessibility Conformance Report or completed VPAT is required for commercial products. So anything like as a service or managed services. This is a report of how your product conformed to the WCAG standards, that WCAG 2.1 AA standards, and success criteria. So your product should be tested for accessibility. This form should be completed by someone who is very familiar with the product, preferably the product owner. And we would prefer if you submit your your ACR using VPAT version 2.4 or higher. There are some different versions out there, but we would like to see version 2.4 or higher. We also would like to see that your product has actually been tested. I do receive ACRs that say general product knowledge, and I can tell you those will automatically get scored down. Because that tells me that the product probably was not tested and that the VPAT was completed by someone who's maybe been a user for that product or has seen some sort of demonstration with that product. We would really like to see the product owner or manufacturer complete that particular document. Okay, next slide, please. This is an example of the standards that are on the VPAT. This is a condensed version, and there's also a link on this page that will take you to the more detailed versions and what the actual success criteria are. to demonstrate how your product conforms. The WCAG standards are based on the POUR principles, which is we would like our technology to be perceivable to everyone. We would like it to be operable for different types of technology that are being used, different types of accessories that are being used, or input modalities. And then understandable, we would like the content and the way the product works to be understandable by all users. So if a user has a neurodivergence, let's say they have autism or ADHD, or maybe dyslexia, the product should adhere to these particular standards, which makes it much more easy to use and understandable for those types of users. And then we would like the product to be robust. So it would operate across different modalities, and it would update as necessary, as maybe Chrome changes or some other type of interface, your product changes with it. Next slide, please. When your product is tested, when you're viewing that VPAT and you're testing your product for each of those standards, you will document how your product conformed to that particular standard and success criteria. So it will either support it with exceptions, maybe it does not support it at all, or it's not applicable, or you did not evaluate it because it was at a different level that is not required. For example, level AAA. If your product is not fully supporting a standard and success criteria, so there is an exception, maybe there's a known defect or gap of some sort, please explain that to us on the report. So please provide some detail around what the known issue is, if there's a way to provide an alternate for that particular issue. That's the kind of information that we need to see, and our customers need to know that as well when they do the final procurement off of this contract once it's awarded. Next slide, please. So now we'll talk about development services. The Vendor Accessibility Development Services Information Request talks about your development process. So what does your development lifecycle look like? How are your developers trained? Are they trained at the new WCAG level? What does testing look like for your development lifecycle? How do you document and track testing and fixes? What kind of applications do you use? What kind of testing tools? What kind of development tools? So this is a document. It has only a few questions on it, but the more detail you can provide, the better. And this is a document that I can provide a courtesy review on. I can also provide a courtesy review on the PDAA. I will say I only do one courtesy review for each of those documents. So if you decide to submit one to DIR for a review, please put forth your best effort before you submit it. Don't come to me with like one or two questions on how to complete it. That's something to ask during the Q&A period. If you're going to ask for a courtesy review, please do your very best effort in completing it. That way I can review it and provide you the best feedback possible. Next slide, please. This is an example of the questions. I did kind of summarize these already. Key business processes that include accessibility functions. So, you can put that in not just your product development, but also, again, at an organizational level, how have you adopted accessibility into your business practices as an organization? We would like to see what kind of skills and training resources you use to train your staff. You can provide the actual platforms that they use, like DQ, for example. What kind of development and testing tools do you use? There are a lot of testing tools out there. A lot of them are automated testing tools, which is great, but we also want to see that you're doing manual testing with your product as well. So let us know that you're doing some kind of manual testing, for example, using a keyboard only and not a touchpad or a mouse. You're testing with assistive technology, for example, a screen reader. So we want to see that as well. And then what does your corrective action process look like for documenting, tracking, resolving those defects? And then if in the event that there is a non-compliance issue going forward, maybe you've done an update on your product and something kind of threw accessibility out of whack in a certain area, What is your plan to provide alternate methods so that the state can provide the content or support our users in another way if the application or the technology is not working for them? And then we also ask for links of your past development projects. I know that sometimes this is hard if it's an application. If you could provide us, if you've developed, anything that maybe has an initial screen that we can look at before someone has to log in. If you're not able to provide any examples of past development work, typically what I'll do is I will go to your company website and I'll sample a couple of pages on your website just to see how your organization has adopted accessibility practices. Again, that's why the PDAA is so helpful and why it is required. If one of the other documents we're not sure, we're on the fence about scoring it, I can go back and look at how your organization employs accessibility practices for itself on your website, and that helps us understand. Next slide, please. So currently we're offering a complimentary training for our vendors. If you'd like to learn more about digital accessibility practices in the state of Texas, specifically to procuring in the state of Texas or responding to our solicitations, they are only 4 classes. This is the recommended order for the classes. They're up to an hour long each. And if you're interested in taking any of these classes, next slide, please. This is how you can sign up. So you do not need to reach out to me and request an account. Everything you need to sign up and take those courses for free is here. If you have any questions or if you run into trouble signing up for those classes, feel free to email me at statewide accessibility@dir.texas.gov. And always copy the procurement lead if you email me, even for courtesy reviews. Please copy the procurement lead, who I believe is Pete Cazales. And I think that ends my presentation. I will, I have one more. So this is links on our website, access to the templates, which are already in your packet. But if you'd like additional information for our vendors or on the procurement process, we do have that on our website. And then I believe the last slide has my contact information again, statewide accessibility@dir.texas.gov. Again, I can do a courtesy review of your PDAA and your VADSR. It's just one courtesy review for each of those documents. Thank you.
Thanks, Marie. I appreciate all those comments and all that you do for all Texans. And so in this next session, we'll talk about some general information about the RFO, and I'll turn it over to James.
Okay, so please reference the RFO page number and section number when submitting questions. Webinar participants may submit questions electronically at any time during the webinar, but please use the question tab. Questions answered today are unofficial until posted on the ESPD in the form of an addendum. So please check the ESPD often for updates. And then all questions regarding this RFO must be submitted in writing through the BidStamp Vendor Information System portal by May 30th, 2025 by 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Next slide, please. Okay, disqualification of offers. Failure to sign respondent information form, Exhibit A, will get you disqualified. Failure to complete financial information, supplying your DUNS number, will get you disqualified. Failure to complete a historically underutilized business subcontracting plan. Failure to complete and submit Exhibit H, the policy-driven adoption for accessibility, or submit a form with a 0 score or a form that's blank. Failure to submit one on or before the due date and time. Then contact with DIR employees regarding this RFO other than the designated contacts will get you disqualified. Then the delivery of offers, Any vendor submitting to this RFO must submit their response through the Bitstamp VIS.
And before we go to the next slide, yeah, I just noticed, James, on that first line, failure to sign respondent information form, Exhibit A. So yeah, we're now calling that the response certification form. So again, it goes to the importance of having someone sign the document. Basically, we can't stress enough the importance of someone certifying the response or signing that response. So although in this slide it says respondent information form, it's really now called the response certification form. But both cases, it's Exhibit A of the RFO packet. Also, as far as just another word, I think we mentioned this before, but it really can't be mentioned too often. Set up your account in the Bitstamp portal as early as possible. You do not want to wait until the last minute to do that because of the technical potential for technical issues. So let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. And so I added this slide recently just kind of to give a heads up for those who would be moving to the next phase, the negotiation phase, if they've been selected for negotiations. Because this is so important, I wanted to go ahead and address this now. And it's regards to the NIGP code selection that will happen in the early part of the negotiation phase. So one thing is that the state of Texas uses NIGP codes or commodity codes, also known as, to categorize the goods and services. So each type of good or services have a number associated with them, and also a number and title. It's not perfect, but it's and there would be millions of codes if it was perfect, but it kind of gives a broad outline of the categories that would fall, the categories and the vendors that would fall under a particular product or service offering. And the state procurement folks use this to accurately identify interested vendors, or sort of a matchmaking process. The vendor says that we provide these codes, and then the procurement lead would say, well, we happen to be looking for these codes, and then then they're able to make that sort of connection and move forward to discussion as far as the details of what they're seeking. If you're selected for negotiations, it is important that you select all the applicable NIGP codes. So spend some extra time to make sure that you'll want to select all the codes that apply to your products and services, not just most or some, but go ahead and select all of them, because again, it's the purchasers, the state purchasers and procurement folks. They're going to be using these codes to find those vendors and move forward in the process. So as part of their procurement file, that they've reached out to 3 or 5 or more vendors within that particular NIGP code listing. So I just wanted to go ahead and sort of emphasize that, put some stress on that at this slide. But so if we can move on to the next slide, please, I'll turn it over to Vanya, who will talk about the importance of the vendor legal name or respondent legal name.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Vanya Raymakers, and I am with the DIR Cooperative Procurement Team. So the one thing that we need to understand about your financial check, DIR will use the Duns and Bradstreet record system to run a report that allows us to verify your financial stability. Your score must be lower than 9 in order to pass. They use the SER report, and the critical part of this process is a 3-way match. A 4-way match is better, So I want to make sure everyone here understands what I'm talking about. First, your company legal name. Why is that important? Because a lot of the vendors have issues when they fill out their Exhibit A and list their company name as they know it, but not as it is registered. Exhibit A is one of the most important documents of your response package. It must match your certification. So Exhibit A is the first document checked. Your legal name needs to match the Secretary of State registration, okay? Your legal name must match the Duns and Bradstreet record for your company. And your legal name must match the Salesforce account that you have, the bid stamp, VIS portal, whatever you want to call, that you're going to submit your response under. Also, the one thing you need to remember about this match is your company corporate address, not the address where you reside, not the address where you are going to serve the contract, but your corporate address, which means the same address used on your Duns and Bradstreet registration, the same address you use for the Secretary of State under your company legal name registration. This address is good if it matches the Salesforce bid stamp. 9 out of 10 it's not, because usually on your bid stamp Salesforce record, you use your company service where the company address of who is serving the contract, because that's the local entity name and address. But we need a three-way match in order for you to pass your financial check, which is a fail, pass or fail. And you must have this. So right now, you have time. Check your Duns and Bradstreet record. What's your score on your SER report? If it's lower than 9, we're good. If it's 8, if it's 9, you fail. You can work on it right now. If it's 8, I say, check it out. See if it can get lower. You want to be between 1 and 7 to pass your financial stability review. Okay, next slide. So your company legal name, including your DBA if it is legally registered. Watch your punctuation, your commas. I know it's kind of nitpicking, but unfortunately, when you're talking about legal documents, these things matter. It causes the computer to spit out no record matching. So be aware of that. Your Exhibit A, your company name must be your legal company name as registered in the state of Texas. I do understand that there are companies where when they went to register in the state of Texas, their company name was already taken, so they had to come up with a different name or a DBA or a different reference. Make sure your name on the Exhibit A matches your legal name as registered with the state of Texas and as registered on your Duns and Bradstreet registration. The next thing is your address. We want your company corporate address and your FIN number. Make sure it's a 9-digit and make sure it matches everything else that you are doing. Your DUNS number, your address, your legal company name, all needs to match. Okay, this is important because it creates a much easier process to move you from administrator review to evaluation. If you get stuck right here, it will take time. And you're going to be emailing back and forth and keep causing Pete a lot of more work than he needs to do. Because if this match, it just goes smooth through it. So take the time. Make sure that your documentation all match. Okay, next slide.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Vanya. And you will be back for some more information on the bid stamp portal. But for the next couple of slides, I'll turn it over to James, and he'll talk about a few other things.
I promise I won't read this entire slide for everyone. I just want you to note that the RFO reference category on the left, that's for a list of the required documents for this RFO. The list on the right is the naming convention that you need to follow. Please substitute ABC with your company's initials. And 596 references this RFO. Next slide, please. And then again, these are just some tools to help you along with your process. They're YouTube channels. Next slide, please. And then this is just to say that you can't speak to anyone besides the point of contact for this RFO. Otherwise, you run the risk of being disqualified.
Yeah, and that would be me. And so I'm in section, I think it's 3 of the RFO, and it has this provision. There are a couple of exceptions though, as far as the hub department. So they have a courtesy review that they can provide you if you provide it to them, if you contact them with enough time and they have the time to do so. It'd be a courtesy review. And also Marie, under certain conditions, is it about the PDAA or what she specifically mentioned. So there are those 2 exceptions, but beyond that, keep your correspondence and communications directly with the assigned procurement lead, which in this case is me. And so let's move on to the next slide, and then we'll turn it over back to Vanya, and she'll give you an overview and the details about how you will be submitting your response through the vendor information system portal, what we call bid stamp.
Hi again. So one of the things I want to tell you guys is the slide where there was the 2 YouTube videos links. I strongly recommend you listen to those videos. It's a step-by-step how to respond to this RFO. The VIS portal information, that is session 2 of those videos, walks you through uploading your documents step by step. What I'm going to give you today is an abbreviation of what you will have. That video, it will walk you through step by step with absolutely total detail. I strongly recommend you watch it before you upload your response. Next slide. So everyone is going to respond to this RFO through the same system, our VIS portal. Okay, it is not a choice. The electronic response is a must. Before users can access the BidStamp VIS portal, you must have an account. You must have an account that is recent. So let's talk about a couple issues here. One, the BidStamp has been upgraded since the last RFO that you responded to. If you are from the old GIS response group, you will need to contact the system and have your account reinitiated, activated with the new link and everything else. So first of all, if you're brand new to VIS portal, not a problem. Request your account. You'll be right where you need to be. If you are an existing VIS portal vendor, you need to verify that the VIS portal link you have right now and your credentials are working before the day that the bid is due, before the day that you have to get in there. Test it now. Okay. Also, a lot of companies have the VIS portal under a specific employee name. And maybe that employee is no longer there. So you might need to get a new account. So be aware of those details, and it cannot be the day the response is due. We only have a few IT people dedicated to the system. So if you ask for your account activation, reactivation, or a brand new account, the day of the bid response is due. Keep in mind that is a 48-hour process minimum. And I am telling you this because it has come up, and I'm trying to help you to avoid those delays, okay? The next thing is make sure that you request an account, know where the account is located, know where your credentials are, okay? When you ask to get your account set up, make sure you have your legal name. And for the vendors that are current vendors, make sure that your legal name is what's on your current account, because at this time is a good time to get it updated, okay? And I strongly recommend you look at the video for the bid stamp. It's a very important video and it will really help you. Next step. So persons with disability can seek accommodations, and we will accommodate you, but you need to let us know at least 5 days before the response. We need to make accommodations. It will take time. So we need the time, and you need to let us know right away. If you know it immediately, just let us know. Okay, thank you. Next slide. All right, so how do you get to the VIS portal so you can start the process? If you're brand new to DIR, you will go into our DIR main page, and you're gonna come down and you're gonna see this selling through DIR. You're gonna click on that, okay? And then you're gonna scroll down the web page. Next slide. Once you get to that page, it's gonna say schedule of solicitation opportunity. You're going to click on that. Next slide. Then you, at the very bottom of that page, when you're scrolling down, you're going to see this bid stamp application. So you have two choices. You either going to log on or you're going to ask for new credentials, okay? Make sure that when you click on the log on that you have your credentials next to you, because you want to make sure you're ready to log on, okay? So next slide. So then you're going to come to this screen once you click on logging in or requesting credentials. So you notice that you're going to log in, you're going to have your username and your password. If you are, right under here says, are you a vendor and need to request an account or forgot your password, click there. That's when IT will assist you. Either one of those things can take up to 48 hours, okay? Next slide. So once you get into the system, you logged on, now you look at your main page, this is the screen you're going to see. So what you're going to do, you're going to open solicitations. That is the second one. I'm going to go over every tab, but if you want to know where you're going first, you're going to go open solicitations. Next slide. And now you're going to search for 596. As you can see here, what's going to happen is when you open this, you're going to see all the solicitations that are posted. If they're in pre-solicitation mode, they're not going to be here. The only things you're going to see here is when they're posted, okay? So you're going to look for 596, and then you're going to click on that. Next slide. And then you're going to come up to this slide, and you're going to, under that solicitation main page, you will have the option to respond to the solicitation, to ask a question, and to subscribe to the solicitation or to view the solicitation documents, okay? The view solicitation documents is not that DIR has uploaded the documents into Bidstamp. No, that is a link to the ESBD, the official location where your documents will be for you to download. And if you're in this conference, I expect you already have those documents downloaded. Okay? So that's what that is. The Bidstamp VIS portal does not provide documents of the solicitation. You must go to the ESBD to download those. Okay? And so you can ask questions. Subscribe to solicitation. I'm going to talk about this a couple times because that's important. You need to do that. If you push on that button, it's going to say every time Pete uploads an addendum to ESBD, he's going to come into the VIS portal Bidstamp and he's going to say addendum posted. And if you are subscriber, it's going to send you an email that says, hey, go to the ESBD. We just posted an addendum. And then you can go to the ESBD. But keep in mind that these things are things DIR does as a courtesy. Keeping up with the RFO addendums and the ESBD is your responsibility. Nowhere in the law does it say that DIR is responsible for that. I just want to make sure you guys know because DIR goes above and beyond in all that we do. Like we will send you a notice if you are on our email list that the addendum is posted. We will send out notice about the solicitations. But it's not something we have to do. It's something we do as a courtesy plus an additional service that DIR provides. Next slide. So responding to the solicitation is easy. It says create a new solicitation. So you're going to start uploading your documents. Okay? Ask a question. You're just going to write a question. What I want to say about asking a question, please, pretty, please, without sugar and spice that I can find and muscle, one question per submission. Do not open a question screen and enter 32 questions. I beg of you, don't do that. That means that we have to answer 32 questions one at a time. So you save time to yourself, but you're adding a lot of work for us. One question per entry every single time. I truly appreciate if you do that. So will Pete, trust me. Subscribe to the solicitation. We talked about this, how important it is for you to get notifications. View documents, we talked about that. That is going to give you a link to the ESBD posting. Okay, next slide. So this is a kind of a what I call a summary thing, right? We're going to talk about a few things that are important. The first thing to talk about is the delete button. Be careful, because if you delete, it's over. You got to start all over again. There is no refresh. There is no go back to the box. It is gone. So be careful with that button, okay? And the withdraw button is also a permanent thing. So be careful with that button as well. Submit button. I'm going to talk about this and I'm going to make a joke because that's the only way I can make people remember things. I don't know about you guys, but I remember stories from trainings more than I remember trainings sometimes. So I always like to make a story about something that is important. So it's 1:58. You are uploading the date of the response is due. You are uploading your last document. Guess what? 1:58. If your system is slow and that last document takes 3 seconds or 3 minutes, by the time you come back to this screen, the submit button is going to be gone. And it is not a timeout of the system. It is the fact that it's past 2 o'clock. And at 2 o'clock, the system doesn't ask any question. It doesn't have any delays. It simply disappears. The submit button disappears. And there's nothing you or me or Pete or no one can do. So what I suggest is that you never, ever, ever wait until 1:58 to upload documents. Okay? So remember that. Submit, 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 and submit before 2. Okay? Asking questions, that button is right there. You're going to enter. It's just Same thing we talked about. You're going to write your question and it's going to upload it to the system. Pete will see it. All questions will not be answered through the system. The questions will be answered through an addendum. And that's the only time it's official. Okay. Just remember that too. Sometimes vendors will say, how come my questions haven't been answered yet? Well, because the addendum hasn't been posted. Okay. So when you are doing pricing, some RFOs, pricing is not applicable. In your case, price, it is applicable. You must creating a pricing form in order for your response to move to evaluations. Without a pricing form that you haven't created, it's not going to move. Creating a pricing form, if it's a requirement of the RFO, it's also a requirement to move forward. If you don't, it means somebody else is going to have to go in there and create that pricing form for you. And you may and may not get one, and you may and may not pass. It all depends. So I wouldn't take a chance. If your RFO requires a pricing form, upload a pricing form. And here's another story for you. Don't enter one line that says, see Exhibit E pricing form. That is not a pricing form that can be evaluated. You will be disqualified. If we have nothing to evaluate through the system, we cannot move you to negotiations. You do not have a pricing score. That's how important the pricing form is. So yes, we require that you give us a total detail spreadsheet. That has a purpose. We are going to validate your discounts and your data entry. We are going to make sure that you enter all the proper categories. We are going to make sure that you spell the brand names correctly so that when we run the pricing evaluation automatically, there is no bugs. So the pricing form that you submit in an Excel is a very important document. Don't think that entering your price in the bid stamp is going to give you, that tells you you don't have to do the spreadsheet, or the spreadsheet doesn't have to do the bid stamp. They go together. Okay, they go together and they must both be in there as part of your response. Okay. So things to know about your response documents. The number one reason responses, when you're uploading documents, it gets rejected or it creates an error is because your document name is too long. So what you need to do, you need to follow the document name convention. When you download something from the ESBD, the new ESBD system adds a long number to that file. That we don't put it there, they put it there, which makes the exhibit names even longer. So you have to save as, when you're filling out the documents, and save as the name convention that is appropriate for that exhibit A or the exhibit B. Okay? So those are details, yes, very, 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 very important details. Because if you're uploading a document and the name is too long, and by the way, if you're uploading a document straight from the ESBD that you downloaded, the name is too long. There's only 80 characters to the names, and you must do that. Follow the name convention. Okay? Vendor references. So number one thing, the VIS portal vendor reference can work, but we don't recommend you use it. Again, this was a thing that we did to help vendors track who they were sending the reference to. DIR does not guarantee that your vendors, that your customers that you put in here are going to receive your vendor reference. What if they have an email block? What if there's a security protocol that doesn't like system emails coming through? What if it goes to the junk box? None of those things can be controlled by DIR. So what we recommend is that you send your customer reference request through an email and CC yourself. Ask your customer to CC you when they add that reference to the RFO mailbox. When they submit the reference to the RFO mailbox that is on the reference form directions, they CC you so you know it got sent. Okay? Do tell your customers the following. One, don't password your files. Don't send us link to download files, because we don't have access to anybody else's cloud systems or outside drives or Google Drives. None of that we can do. It's all security issues. So your reference needs to come through the email. They need to be PDF. They cannot have passwords. Those things are things you need to tell your customers. The number one thing you need to remember about references, why they don't get counted, is because the top of the reference has nobody's name on it. You need to fill out the top of your reference form, who you are. So the customers answer the question and submits the form. The customers don't always fill out that top form. And we get tons and tons of reference. We don't know who they're from or for, so we don't count them. They stay on the mailbox because they don't have a name, and we can't attach them to a response. Okay? Also, make sure your customer uses the right name. So whatever name you are responding under, maybe your reference should come under that same name. Again, those way matches, legal names, consistency throughout your documents. Okay? Again, DIR recommends that you do not use our reference button, but you can. We're just not responsible for it. Okay? Next slide. All right, now y'all have fun.
Thank you very much, Vanya. I appreciate it. That's a lot of information to take into account, and yeah, please, as Vanya said, just spend extra time to make sure you get set up and familiar with all the buttons that need to be pressed and all the various bid stamp requirements. We do see, unfortunately, a lot of things get tripped up on the technical side of things, which would be unfortunate. But on this next section, we'll talk about some mandatory submission requirements, and we'll have James kind of go through that.
I'll try to keep this short and sweet. Pretty much everything on here is needed. But remember, please to have Exhibit A signed when you submit it, because you will be disqualified if it's not signed. I've seen it and it's not pretty. Also, please make sure your HSP is correctly filled out and submitted, as well as your financial information and your accessibility.
Yeah, and I would say, James, as well, as far as Exhibit B and C, like not only submit B and C, but make sure you answer every question in B and C. So don't leave, even you may say, oh, this doesn't really apply to me, or I don't know if it applies to me. Do your best to make sure that you have something in there and it's not blank or NA or something like that, that you provide the best answer you can, because the evaluator will be required to enter in a 0 if it's blank or not responded to. And again, if you average, you start averaging zeros into a score, and it drops pretty quickly. The score just drops pretty quickly. So submit the forms and submit them completely. I guess that's the sort of the advice we can give.
Next slide, please. And then this just goes over again the rejection of responses. Under section 3.9 of the RFO, it states DIR has sole discretionary authority and reserves the right to reject any and all responses received as a result of this RFO. Responses that do not comply with the mandatory submission requirements may be rejected. In addition, DIR reserves the right to accept or reject, in whole or in part, any responses submitted, and to waive minor technicalities when in the best interest of the state. Next slide, please.
All right, so as far as the questions are concerned, we're running a little behind. I say what we can do is we'll take a short break, and I don't know about, instead of 10 minutes, maybe let's say 5 minutes, so 3:15 51 or so. And then if you have any other questions, let's take a short 5-minute break. And then if you have any questions, enter them in that chat button where it's Q&A, and we'll try to address those with the various people that are here today. I will see you in about 5 minutes.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We are going to go over some of the questions now. So the first question is, it is understood that user interface platforms require accessibility documentation. If we sell GIS service/files, will the accessibility documentation be required for the latter? Is this Marie? Marie, do you have an answer? Okie dokie. We will go to the next question for right now. Exhibit B, respondent history and experience. Can subcontractor history and experience be included for Exhibit B in addition to the prime's respondent?
Hi, can you hear me, Brianna?
Yes.
Okay, I was having some technical issues there. Yeah, so it could. So just be clear as far as what percentage, of that experience was for the subcontractor, and how much was it of your experience, as far as how much was it over, on the prime side. So I would, you could do that. Just be sure to be upfront about sort of the percentage wise of who was doing what.
Okie dokie. Next question, Exhibit F, respondent references. Can a reference from a subcontractor qualify for Exhibit F reference forms?
I would say no on that one, but no, we wouldn't want to accept a subcontractor, a reference form from a subcontractor because of conflict of interest there.
Okay. Next question. What explains the large drop in state agency total numbers in 2024?
Well, that might be outside of my my pay grade. I think if you were to ask me, I'm sure COVID has something to do. There was a high demand of new laptops and other technology stuff. So we may have seen a spike in state agency demand due to the early COVID, especially the early mid COVID years. And as that kind of died off, things became, normalized. But that would be my guess. But I'm not a finance person or at that level to know the specifics. But yeah. That's my guess.
Okay. All right, next one. Are there page limits for any of the items 1 through 7 listed for Exhibit B, or do only item 1 and 3 have page limit parameters? For item 2, the second part of the item 2 states that the related service summary has a limit of 2 pages, but nothing is stated for the past project's experience. Is there a limit in terms of number of pages for the project experience?
Yeah, a good question. So the page limits do apply to whatever sections that they're set for. So we just noticed that some parts needed page limits and others didn't. If we were asking for organizational charts or organizational information. We didn't really necessarily felt like a page limit was required in certain parts. So basically, to answer your question, if there's a section or a question that has a page limit, then you would need to adhere to that. If it doesn't, then there's not a page limit. Just be sure that you're sticking on point to what the question is as far as the topic of the question, and start adding information that's not being asked of that question. As far as the page number limit, if you do exceed that, the evaluators are just instructed, stop reading after page 7, ignore the rest as far as when the page limit is hit. So but hopefully that answers your question.
Okie dokie. Next question, for Exhibit F, can federal government agencies be used?
Yeah, I don't see any. I think those they would probably be a pretty good reference if they're able to be a reference. But yeah, I don't see any problem with that.
Okay. Next question, please provide additional guidance around the pricing sheet for GIS services not related to a product or hardware. We would be providing a service in scope areas 2.9, 10, and 11.
So yeah, regarding services, so typically there is a tab in the pricing sheet, which is the the Excel spreadsheet. And you'll want to, typically the way public entities see as, how they describe services, it's usually in resource hours, right? So you have a data scientist or an AI specialist or, GIS project manager, and then, provide their unit of measure, which is typically in our world done by hour. So their hourly rate, and then you provide their hourly rate, whatever is X amount. We'll be checking to see if it's reasonable. If you put $1,000 down, $1,000 an hour down, we may question that. Is that what we typically see? Is it more like 250 or 125 or 350? There may be issues there that we'll have to address. But that's pretty much it as far as when it comes to services. What we want to see is resource name, resource description as far as what they're doing specifically, and then the unit of measure, which is typically hour, maybe day, could be week, and then the rate. And then you have the calculation of what the discount is, and then the formula that leads to the DIR customer price. So hopefully that answers your question.
Perfect. Next question, please confirm that the VPATS form is not required for firms not selling a commercial product.
And I'll leave that to Marie, unless she's having technical issues or not.
I can answer that one.
Right.
So the accessibility conformance report or completed VPAT is required for all product offerings on your pricing sheet in your response. If your response does not include a product, then an ACR is not required. If you are building an application for a state customer, then an ACR would be required for that final product developed for that agency.
Perfect. Next question. Historically underutilized business, page 29, 3.734, Exhibit F, Respondent reference, page 35. Is the past performance more heavily weighted for hubs?
And I'll let Teresa answer that if she's available.
I'm here. Thanks, Pete. Is it more heavily weighted for hubs? No, it's not. It's going to, each vendor is going to be weighted at their own ability and references from the past. So that's not. Unless there's more to the question, if you could add more, if that doesn't answer your question, if you can add more to the Q&A and we can revisit.
Perfect. For HSP, when we list the items of how the prime is going to subcontract portions of the TO, what do we put in the subcontracting opportunity descriptions if we don't know what the TO specifies?
We're going to need more information on that one as well. If you could add to the Q&A, what is TO? What is it? Is an acronym or abbreviation for? We need more information. Thank you.
Okay. Next question. Successful respondent qualifications. How many years does a mentor-protege joint venture need to be in business to be eligible to bid for this solicitation?
Yeah, I'm not sure that section 3.5 addresses mentor-protege joint ventures. Well, I'll need to get back to you on that one.
Okie dokie. All right, next question. For question 2 in Exhibit B, should we provide a summary for each category? We are responding to the GIS software mapping and visualization and GIS services. Is there a page limit associated with this question?
And that is question 2. So it is up to you as far as how you want to outline your history and experience. If there's not a page limit, specified, then there wouldn't necessarily be one required. Just be sure you're answering the question. As far as breaking down your experience each category, if you have a couple categories or 2 or 3 categories, and that's how you would like to outline it, you may. If you want to just outline your history and experience in the totality of the scope, that's fine as well. So we don't require you to point to the specific categories in the RFO. What we were trying to do with the categories is it's a way for us to kind of organize and communicate, some specifics about what we're looking for under this GIS RFO. So we won't necessarily be awarding on a per category item in this particular case. So it's not necessarily required that you explicitly point out which categories that you're offering under. But what we do want to make sure is that we sufficiently described how DIR sees GIS and land surveying, digital land surveying products and services to you, and that you're within that sort of in that area.
Perfect. Next question. In Exhibit B, Item 4, it asks us to complete the table for each category to which we are responding. Does category refer to NIGP codes, or does it mean the items in the scope?
It would be, well, hopefully there's a high degree of overlap. Again, the NIGP codes are sort of more, broad and generic. And then, our scope section is providing more details of, and more, current and emerging technology sort of details. As far as we're not asking you specifically for per NIGP code or scope, but you can kind of just, as long as you're within the scope, we want to see what kind of experience you have.
Perfect. Next question. Can we submit response only for services?
So absolutely, yes. That's a hard yes, and you can submit for services only. You can submit an offer that has products only, products we call software or hardware, or you can submit an offer that has both products and services. It's up to you.
Okay. Next question. Where do respondents outline which categories they're pursuing?
And there isn't a place. So yeah, this particular RFO, we're just trying to, when we break it down into categories, just to hopefully more clearly describe what GIS and digital land-based surveying are. We don't intend to award on a per category area. We have in the past our artificial intelligence RFO. We were communicating to because we wanted to communicate to customers that if you're trying to do this thing, is it machine learning or is it digital machine language or chatbots or something, that you can go to this vendor. But on this particular RFO, we just want to make sure that the vendors have the products and services that fall under GIS and land-based surveying.
Okay. Next question. For the items listed under Section 2.5 and 2.6, does DIR consider these products or services on the pricing sheet, page 13 and 14 of the RFO document, Section 2.5 and 2.6?
Well, thank you for telling me which page it is too. That helps. And that's page section 2.5. So yeah, on the first section, first couple of words, you'll see GIS software. So that would be products. If it's software or hardware, then that would fall on the product side. And then you'll also see some categories where they'll say, services. And then that would be, for example, section 2.11 has GIS services, data collection, conversion, and integration. And so those are the sort of things that we thought would apply under the services side. So hopefully that answers your question.
Perfect. If our physical address that is tied to our DUNS and SOS is different than our remit to address, is there a spot to reference this?
Well, that may be a question that comes up. You can always enter in a comment in your negotiation kickoff reply if there's an issue there. There may be an issue that needs to be addressed during the financial review. And I don't think there is a spot to reference it, but if it becomes an issue with our finance department, they'll let me know, and I'll be reaching out to you as far as to resolve any discrepancies or anomalies on that side.
Okay. Next question. Can we upload documents as we complete them, then hit the submit once everything is ready?
Yeah, I think there has been developments in that case where you can upload documents and then submit them after everything has been uploaded. And I think we've even made improvements where you can now remove documents as necessary, which was an issue before in the system. But now, yeah, I believe you can either add or remove documents as you work on your response, and then with sufficient time before the response due date time, you're able to hit submit and have everything sent over. So yes, I believe that's correct.
Okay. Does DIR expect that there will be an additional proposal file further describing products and services, etc., or is the expectation that the extent of the submission is contained within Exhibit E and all other artifacts outlined in the RFO?
Second.
Sorry, did you get that one?
I did hear you. Yeah, actually, yeah. Exhibit E is the pricing form, though. Let's see, it's contained within. Is the expectation that the extent of the submission is contained within exhibit or artifacts outlined in the RFO. So so you're talking about your proposal being further described in the products and services. So yeah, I think it is the expectation that that your offers products and services, all the details would be in Exhibit E, and hopefully I'm answering this question correctly. But yeah, that would be all the details would be including in your pricing form. So again, the high level as far as the brand and percentage discount, that's going to be in the automated form in Bitstamp, and then you'll be attaching your Exhibit E, and that will include the entirety of all the details. So you'll have the specific line item, the SKU, and the product description, the SKU's description, the specific price of the item, and all the other details in Exhibit E. So yeah, I think that's probably what your question is.
Perfect. File format clarification requests for Exhibit H and Exhibit I. Exhibit H response requested as docx, but was supplied form as PDF. Exhibit I response requested doc, but supplied as Excel Does DIR want these formats converted to DocX for submission?
Exhibit H and I. So yeah, I do see that. Yeah, and I do think that's a typo. So yeah, with the Edgar certification form, that would probably most likely be a PDF and not a DOCX, which would be a Word document. So yeah, a PDF is fine for the Edgar. As far as Exhibit I, which is the PDAA. And again, yes, that would be correct. Where it probably would be an Excel spreadsheet, because that is the format that it's sent to you. And so yes, please include it in your response as a spreadsheet. And I think so that is a typo in that section. And thank you for pointing it out. I think we corrected it in the slides, but in the RFO at the time, it wasn't. But we'll probably make that correction in an addendum.
Perfect. Follow up to my question about provisions of GIS services/files. The platform to which our deliverables map files are uploaded likely to have VPATs, but we do not have access to them to share with DIR. As the platforms are owned and managed by other companies, we can, however, speak to the WCAG 2.1 compliance of our map files. Is this acceptable?
I can answer.
Great.
Oh,
Thank
sorry,
you, Mark.
Pete. Yeah,
No,
I was
go-
going to say I can answer it. So Esri does have accessibility conformance reports for its products and can provide those for you. So you'll need to go to the manufacturer. You can also find them on the Esri site and provide the specific URL. And what I mean by specific URL is it opens the actual ACR and doesn't take us to some other page. You can provide that specific URL for each ACR that corresponds to the product listed on the pricing sheet. Most of the GIS vendors I reviewed in 2023 do have an ACR now for their products. And then I saw that I missed your first question. If it's okay, I'll answer that one as well. Regarding files and ACRs, if there's a user interface, an accessibility conformance report or completed VPAT is needed. GIS products, including files, example, supporting documentation, training documentation, etc., need to have an ACR or be compliant with WCAG 2.1AA. Section 6 of the Chapter 6 of the Section 508 VPAT covers supporting documentation and services. So for your files question, it would be that chapter that would be completed.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, next question. For Exhibit F, do references have to be based in the state of Texas?
There is no geographic limit on the references.
Perfect. Will the recording of the webinar be available as well?
Brianna, could you answer that?
Yes. So we will upload it to YouTube, and the link will be posted in the addendum with the slide deck, right? Yep.
Yeah, we will make the in the next the first addendum after this conference. We'll make the slide deck available, as well as the conference attendees, so you can see if you want to partner with someone that's also been here, and that will be available as soon as we can get to it.
Perfect. Next question. Is there a font type or size restriction for a response?
Brianna, oh, go ahead, Pete.
Actually, so yeah, I will turn this over to Marie, but yeah, I don't think there specifically is, but Marie, could you address this one?
Yeah, from an accessibility standpoint, the preferred font is a sans serif font. An example of that would be Sejo UI, and minimum font size is 11 point. If you're using any kind of color contrast that is not accessible, then you would need to increase the size of your font to, I believe, 14 point.
Okay. Next question. Could you please confirm whether we are allowed to submit the files in PDF format, or are we required to submit them in original formats such as Word and Excel?
Yeah, your safest bet is going to be in the original format as specified in section 3.7.4 response files within the RFO. So, for example, the PDAA is an Excel spreadsheet, and the pricing form is an Excel spreadsheet, and you'll want to definitely return those back to us in an Excel spreadsheet, which is the original format. And also exhibits B and C in Word. I think that would be preferable from our standpoint. But yeah, if you can follow the response file, what's prescribed there. If there's technical issues, reach out to me. If there's for some reason you're having some issues with not turning it into a PDF, reach out to me and we can look at a case-by-case issue if there are technical issues there.
Perfect. All right, one last question. Regarding Table 1, DIR Cooperative Contracts Historical Sales, is further breakdown between products and maintenance and service available? Is it available?
And let me answer that through the addendum process as well. We'll take a look at that, a second look at that question. But I think that's it. Correct? Is that right? I do have a few. I think those are all the questions, and we have a few slides left before we wrap it up today. And let's see. So rejection of responses. Thanks, by the way, for all those questions. Again, you'll be able.
Pete, we had one last question come in at the very last.
Okay.
Any limitations on where a corporate office resides outside of the state of Texas?
No, there isn't.
Okay. Sorry, that was the last one.
Sounds good. Yes, and again, just a reminder, you'll be able to submit questions up to Friday, 5 p.m. and we'll respond in writing through an addendum. Any responses that were provided today, the official response will be again provided in the addendum and may change somewhat. So as far as the rejection of responses, I just want to point out section 3.9 of the RFO, and that DIR has sole discretion or authority and reserves the right to reject any and all responses received as a result of this RFO. Responses that do not comply with the mandatory submission requirements may be rejected. In addition, DIR reserves the right to accept or reject in whole or in part any response submitted and waive minor technicalities when in the best interest of the state. And so really this slide is about, you may end up as far as in the negotiation process, and DIR said, well, this is something that is not necessarily in the best interest of the state, but this part of your offer would be of value to the DIR customer, and we would like to move forward with putting that on award. So we'll take responses. We'll look at all the details and sort out what we can put on contract and what we're not so interested in putting on contract. Next slide, please. So I covered that first bullet a little earlier, that the questions answered today are unofficial, and we'll post the official ones on ESPD soon as we can. Any changes or additional information regarding this RFO will be posted through an addendum on ESPD as well. So keep an eye out on that site for any addendums that may change any things that has been laid out in the RFO. And it is your responsibility of the respondents to monitor ESPD. We do try to send out notices. Technical issues do have, and sometimes they slip through the cracks, on one side or the other due to system limitations or various spam filters and so forth. So I do highly recommend that you refer back to ESPD as often as you could. Next slide, please. Again, so the main deadline coming up is that Q&A deadline, which is this Friday at 5 p.m. And the big date so far is June 17th, which is the deadline for vendor references and for you submitting your response through the BidStamp portal. Next slide, please. So yeah, if you have any questions, I am the primary point of contact. And I'm Pete Cassells. Email address is there, pete.cassells@dir.texas.gov. You have certain hub contacts and accessibility contacts for courtesy reviews, and I certainly would recommend taking advantage of those. Those could be very valuable, as again, those reviews are pass-fail. So I would recommend, if you have the opportunity, such an opportunity, and can use a review, then I encourage you to reach out to them. Next slide. Again, thank you all for being here. I hope this was useful to you, and I look forward to working towards a partnership between your company and DIR. But thank you very much, and I look forward to working with you all.